Hi, welcome back. In the previous videos you saw we started from the beginning on how to start using the tools, and now we're going to bring everything together and actually make a bud vase in this video. So if you want to see how the finished item looks like, continue watching and you'll see the process on how we're actually going to make it. We'll just get it mounted up, remembering that we've already marked our points in the wood. Right, so let's start turning. So I've checked everything, made sure it's not hitting the rest, and we can start going. So I'm just going to use the roughing gouge again. Find a safe speed, around about 2000 RPM. Now you should be able to hear the noise change, and that sort of gives you some indication that we're to a round. But another little trick is to use the back here, and if it bounces then there's still a flat spot, but I think we've actually got that turned to a round. I'm going to stop the lathe and just move this in. That's the safe way to operate. Make this slightly smaller diameter. And just we're going to do a finishing cut. It's good practice as well. So come down, just get the bevel rubbing. And we're just going to go along and get that finished. Like so. So if you missed in the previous videos, we're just going to show how to make a spigot. I have the parting tool here, and I have the caliper set at the correct size. Remember, that's about 5mm bigger than the jaws fully closed. Okay. So nice and gently we're going to start cutting. Our thumb is pressing down, and then with this hand we can just rest gently. And there we have the correct size. We'll just make that slightly longer. We don't need the calipers because I can see where to go to. It's very important to make sure that that's flat and it's not at an angle because it might rock. So let's get this mounted up in the chuck. We need our knockout bar. Now normally I just come close and then just a quick snap on, or just use your spindle lock like so and just a small press, not too hard, just a small press. So we're going to mount this up but just loosely, don't do it too tight. Because we're going to use the towel stock just to get our central location. Small pressure on there, and then we can lock down. Okay, I like to go from one hole to the next hole. This is the correct way to tighten on the chuck. Yeah, and I can feel it nice and tight, so we're ready to go. While I'm making my shapes, I'm going to leave the towel stock in, and that may stop any vibration. So I can do the shapes and then we can drill the hole at the end. Now I'm going to get my proportions correct first, and I'm going to use the roughing gouge. I'm going to make this end smaller than this end. Next stage is the spindle gouge, and I'm going to use the 3/8 spindle gouge. We just need to move the rest in slightly closer. And we're going to start doing some shaping. So just like in the previous videos, we were just doing a series of beads and coves. The shape can be whatever you want. So I think I'll put a bead on here, rolling and lifting. Just go over that slightly. Yeah, I was quite happy with that shape. We'll put a foot on, so we'll come somewhere in here. Maybe we could put a bead in here. We'll just make a nice shape, I think, in this part. So there's quite a bit of waste to come away. And we're starting to get the shape. I feel that we can get a bit more speed. So at the moment, we're about 1700. When you've roughed the wood down, you should be able to start to actually get the speeds going a bit faster. And that will make the cutting a lot easier. So we're going to go up to about 2500. Just get a nice flowing shape on here. Something like that. The bead we can make slightly better. And I may just put a small bead just down in this part. So we're going to come round, and just put a small bead in here. It's very good practice. Now, I don't like this shape here. It doesn't quite flow. Quite often in wood turning you can use the tools, but the shape is very important as well. So this doesn't quite flow here, and that shape needs to be smaller to match up. And there's a bit of a bump here. So quite often wood turning is about just going over and making sure that you've got the shape correct. We'll do a nice finishing cut just on here. And that's now ready for sanding, which is another process that we'll actually, I'd actually like to talk about. Now I'm just going to show you some sanding, very basic sanding. I just use 120 grit, but normally I'd go through the grits maybe to 400 or 600 grit. So it's a very good idea to have extraction if you have this in your workshop. I haven't got any here for the filming, but at the very least you should always wear a mask. So let's get masked up. Now when you're sanding, you should always take the tool rest away. And if you're hand sanding, you should always turn the speed down. It gets very hot, so be very careful of that. So we're going to turn down to about sort of 800 RPM, something like that. And we're going to start with a coarse grit, Yeah, which we're going to fold over. This is some Indasa Velcro backed, but it's also very good for hand sanding. You don't sand at the top, you actually sand at the bottom. This is the safe way to sand. Now the folded edge here can get into some of the corners, like so. And on this position here, and you can always look on the horizon to see if there's any slight bumps. There's a slight bump here, which we can adjust. And we can stop the lathe, check for any deep scratches or heavy marks that you want to get out. Always stop and check after the first coarse grit, and then you can go through the grits and get it sanded up to a fine grit. So I've actually sanded to 400 grit. We didn't include that in the video just to make it shorter. But the next stage now is to drill the hole in the end and to tidy this up. So it's a little bit more tricky. So stay tuned and we'll show you how to do that. So we have a Jacob's chuck, 2 Morse taper and just a 10mm drill bit. You have to make sure that that's seated properly. So if you have a tang, it doesn't seat straight away. You have to have out about 1 inch or so, 25mm, and then just snap it so it's nice and tight. Safety wise, always keep your hand on here. If you try and pull this out, it can come out of the Morse taper and that can be dangerous. So always keep your hand on here and also turn the speed down. At the moment we're still on about 800 RPM for sanding, which is about the correct speed for drilling. So we'll come up very, very slowly, lock this off, that is loose, hand always on here, and we can start drilling. It's very nice on these machines, they have an extra long quill. Always come out to clear the rubbish, and as a good tip we use a bit of wax on here to keep the noise down. Make sure you don't put your hand on there because that's super hot, so I just stick that in like so. Hand on here, all the way in. Yeah, clear rubbish. All the way in and all the way out. So we just wind and take this out. Now this next bit can be quite tricky, so zoom on in and we'll try and explain what's going on and what can go wrong. We're going to use the spindle gouge and it's the best way to get a nice clean cut. And also you can actually start doing a little bit of shaping on the inside. Now it's very, very easy to actually get a catch here, especially when you're starting off. It wants to skip. So make sure the rest is at the right height. So you're pointing slightly up towards the centre. And then that is the bevel right there. What you need to do is get the bevel in line with the wood, like so. We're going to switch it on, turn the speed up. Again to about 1500, 2000 RPM. Get the bevel in line, come to the edge and just start to cut nice and slowly. Now we can do a little bit of shaping on here. So bevel rubbing and just start to shape that on the inside. Nice and gently. If you hear a bit of vibration, just ease off the tooling there. So you have to listen as well. Wood turning's all the part, you know, hearing is all about part of the wood turning. So nice and gentle with the bevel rubbing. We're just going to curve that in. And then we can do just a little bit of sanding just to finish that off. You can roll that up to get the centre. And then I would go through the grits to about 400. So now we need to just finish this off and part that down there. Now you can use the standard parting tool if you leave enough room, but it's a bit tight there. So I'm just going to show you a different tool, and that's a thin parting tool. There's various versions, but it's much thinner, that allows you to get into tighter spaces. So we'll just get the rest round. Now, as we're cutting in, we need to go in 2 cuts so it doesn't get too hot. And also, we're not going to go straight, we're going to go at a slight angle. So when you cut through, it will sit flat on the table. Also, we're going to part through and actually hold and catch the piece in one go. It's a technique when you get more proficient in wood turning that you can do to part pieces off the lathe. So speed-wise, we're going to start around about 1500 or so, like that. Be very, very gentle on how you start. Then you can start cutting in and making your undercut. Ooh. Make sure you go in 2 passes so you stagger. And now we get very, very small. We're about 10mm. We're just going to turn the speed down just for safety. So we're going to turn the speed down to around about 1000 RPM, starting to move slightly. So now you have to do it in one continuous push. So we go into the corner, into there, hand over here, just gently. Very, very simply, like so. So now that we've finished, I hope you enjoyed watching that. If you want to learn all the different processes, please look at the other videos on how we got to this stage. And there'll be more videos showing how to make bowls and more complicated projects. Thanks for watching.